On the Han River, Tae-san gazed across the bridge and pondered. He had worked hard and dedicated himself to become a full-time employee, only for the company to go bankrupt. Looking down at the flowing river below, Tae-san contemplated jumping in. But someone stopped him from acting on this thought. Curious, he looked over. On the other side of the bridge's edge, a shop owner also contemplated jumping. Below, the police were patrolling and earnestly advising him not to do something foolish. They said that life is long, and one should not think of suicide over a small mistake. The shop owner seemed to take the police's advice to heart, crying out loud about his miserable life. Tae-san, watching this failed suicide drama, realized that suicides were common on this river. He understood that even if he jumped, life would continue for others without any impact. Disheartened by city life, Tae-san wondered if he should return to the countryside to raise fish and grow vegetables. Stopping at a red light, he saw a boy engrossed in playing games on his phone. Tae-san envied the boy's carefree life, focused only on eating and studying without worrying about money. However, the boy, absorbed in his game, carelessly crossed the road without paying attention to the traffic lights. Tae-san found this behavior of modern kids fascinating. Suddenly, a speeding white car was heading straight towards the boy. Tae-san looked at the boy, who was still oblivious to the danger, his face buried in his phone. The car didn't slow down and continued speeding forward. The boy kept walking and playing, unaware of the danger. Realizing the imminent threat, Tae-san shouted to alert the boy and ran forward to push him out of the way. The car, showing no intention of swerving or braking, continued its rapid course. It was too late for the boy to react, so Tae-san risked his life to push him out of the way. With a crash, Tae-san was hit and killed. His body was thrown far, along with fragments of the car's windshield. Before dying, Tae-san realized he had not done anything significant for his parents. He wondered if his parents would receive any compensation if he died in an accident, hearing a voice calling him foolish. He was pulled into an undefined space, hanging in the air before a shadowy figure surrounded by a halo. The figure was an old man with white hair and beard, wearing a large bead necklace. Tae-san, confused, asked who the man was and why he was suspended in the air, feeling utterly disoriented. He immediately assumed it was the Grim Reaper. The old man denied this foolish thought, revealing himself as Tae-san's ancestor. Tae-san was shocked, wondering why his ancestor looked like this, scolding himself for disrespecting his elders. The ancestor was furious, thinking his descendant was well behaved. He had considered sending Tae-san to heaven, but reports of Tae-san's misbehavior and disrespect towards his lineage reached him. Despite Tae-san's misbehavior, the ancestor decided to give him another chance. Tae-san, covering his ears, dared not cough or make a sound. In the end, his ancestor decided to give him a second chance at life. But there was one condition: Tae-san had to live an unbalanced life, not showing himself as a nobleman by forgiving his enemies. Anyone with the intention of bullying him should be taught a lesson, as there would be no forgiveness for anyone. Tae-san didn't understand a word of what his ancestor was saying, his face expressing complete bewilderment. The ancestor threatened that if Tae-san continued to live a timid life, he would come down himself to deal with this hapless descendant and force him to live and relive this life for another 5,000 years. Before Tae-san could fully grasp the situation, he was thrown into an undefined abyss. He fell straight down to the place where he had just been hit by a car. Tae-san screamed in protest, questioning why his ancestor had promised to save him. His spirit returned to his unrecognizable, motionless body lying on the street. The clock was ticking continuously. A hand reached out to turn off the annoying alarm. This hand belonged to a young teenager. The teenager woke up, confused about his surroundings. On a day in August 2020, Tae-san, then 32 years old, had been hit by a car and suffered a severe head injury. His ancestor had given him a chance to become young again. He was back to his youth, living the life of a miserable teenager who had never experienced love. Tae-san couldn't believe it and pinched his cheek to see if it was a dream. If this wasn't a dream, then the memories like the Mid-Autumn Festival of 2006, when his hands were still strong from the struggles of youth, were real. He was amazed. His body felt exactly as he remembered from his memories. He calculated his age, figuring out that he was now 18, an age where he didn't have to fear anything. It seemed that his ancestor wasn't bluffing. Memories of his 32 years of life gradually returned. Memories of friends, of those who had wronged him, and of past romances became as vivid as a dream. Now back at this age, he still had to go to school. He recalled his school days, the time spent at internet cafes playing LOL with friends while eating instant noodles, and dozing off in class, which resulted in poor academic performance. Surprisingly, he could still remember everything clearly, even the answers to exams. It was impossible for this to be a dream. He remembered a law exam he had once taken, and his past efforts to study for financial advisor, stock, and bond certifications to get a job. He was well versed in the knowledge of domestic and international stocks. This memory and knowledge were enough. Tae-san remembered that his ancestor had promised him a gift. He looked around the room for the gift left by his ancestor. Suddenly, a light appeared behind him. The light was so bright that he couldn't open his eyes, truly a special gift from his ancestors. A voice instructed Tae-san to sit down and cross his legs. When he opened his eyes, he saw a crow. Or rather, a crow perched on the head of an old man. The old man said he would transfer the 5 jewels of the Tai Chi to Tae-san. The problem was that he was still in his room but had been transported in front of an old, frail man on a very high rock. The old man introduced himself as the head of the Xian Xian Medical Institute, named Cha Jiang Xian. Tae-san was surprised by the old man's identity. Not wanting to waste time, the old man instructed Tae-san to immediately start cultivating the Yuan realm, warning him of the trouble he would face if discovered. Tae-san was still utterly confused. He had no idea about the Xian Xian Medical Institute, what cultivating the Yuan realm meant, or anything about the divine dragon. All of this was completely foreign to him. Jiang Xian praised the firmness of Tae-san's muscles and asked how he achieved it. Tae-san was surprised that his muscles, developed only from occasionally exercising, were complemented by the old man. Jiang Xian also warned him to stop watching pornographic films all the time, as it was ruining him. Jiang Xian advised Tae-san not to keep eating instant noodles, as they are bad for the blood. Understandably, as a poor student, Tae-san could only afford instant noodles. Jiang Xian then told Tae-san to close his eyes and start training immediately. Tae-san felt helpless. He looked around and thought this place was too dangerous for practicing any sort of cultivation. He couldn't be patient with this nonsense any longer. Did he even know the 3 core pillars of cultivation: speed, endurance, and perseverance? Convinced by the soundness of these principles, Tae-san sat down and began to meditate. He thought this was easy, having seen it in movies and martial arts novels. Jiang Xian scolded Tae-san for practicing improper techniques that could harm his bones, behaving like a nagging old man. The transmission session began, and Jiang Xian surprisingly sat behind Tae-san. Tae-san felt the power of the divine dragon being transferred from Jiang Xian's hands to his back. Jiang Xian promised to transfer all his powers to Tae-san. Once Tae-san grasped the minor heavenly cycle, he had to discover the truth on his own. Tae-san still didn't understand what to do. Jiang Xian could only start the transmission. A stream of light from Qigong emerged from Jiang Xian's hand. Tae-san felt a surge of strength being transferred into his body. Jiang Xian accelerated the pace of the Qigong transfer. Tae-san felt a wave-like sensation on his back and started to experience pain. Jiang Xian told him to endure it, as greater pain meant greater power. Tae-san silently endured, feeling like he was about to collapse. His veins swelled and screamed for relief. Tae-san yelled out, overwhelmed by the strength flowing into him. He fainted, his eyes rolling back, and his body collapsing from the immense qigong energy. Tae-san was teleported back to his room, lying on a soaked mattress. He wondered if this was the agonizing feeling people often talked about. He breathed heavily, sweat pouring non-stop. His body was covered in red veins, expelling all the harmful toxins. The chi from the old man made his nerves feel like they were burning. Tae-san's blood vessels swollen as if to burst, but Jeong Xian didn't stop, and tears and snot flowed continuously as the pain and power increased. Tae-san screamed enough, but the old man kept transferring the power from morning until night without a break. The Five Elements Tai Chi Fist was a difficult martial art to master, but Tae-san managed to learn it all. He confirmed that the old man wasn't lying. He had comprehended the entire Five Jewels Tai Chi Fist. Moreover, without asking anything, the old man hinted that he was the #1 disciple of a martial arts faction. He was a master who could fight for 4 days and 3 nights non-stop against the leader of the Huashan faction, ultimately defeating him and winning a competition organized by the Jade Emperor. It sounded impressive, right? Tae-san looked at his sweat-drenched clothes. Tae-san marveled at the greatness of the Five Elements Tai Chi Fist. He had never sweated so much in his life. Despite the old man transferring energy to him all day, the time outside seemed unchanged. So returning from this secret realm was not a problem. Tae-san looked at his computer and then at the wallpaper, sensing the poverty around him. The modem that provided Wi-Fi was still functional. However, the computer had only 6 GB of RAM, a 4 MB graphics card, and a 10 GB hard drive, filled with pirated software. Returning to the past felt like entering a museum in Tae-san. The room smelled terrible, and he needed to clean it up. Outside his room, someone called him to come and eat. Tae-san, come down for breakfast, you need to eat. These words are incredibly familiar to you. Even though you've heard them your whole life, they still warm your heart. Your mother is the only one by your side when you fail or feel down. She always tells you to eat all your meals. Don't just eat fast food. Tae-san says he will shower first. His mother urges him to hurry before the food gets cold. In the bathroom, as he takes off his shirt, he looks in the mirror and sees he has grown taller. His body feels purified. Standing under the shower, Tae-san feels lighter, his skin smoother. The weather is nice today. Walking on the old wooden floor, Tae-san feels comfortable. He looks out at the garden, tirelessly tended by his mother. Outside, there is his father's old tractor. Their house, passed down through 10 generations, is why he lives and grows up in the countryside. His mother's voice calls from behind, bringing food. Tae-san comments on the beautiful day. His gentle mother tells him to hurry or the food will get cold. He sees his mother, looking frail from working in the fruit garden since morning, yet she's always the most beautiful at his school's parent meetings. Tears well up in Tae-san's eyes, and he rushes to hug his mother. She is surprised by his action, noting that he's grown but still hugs her like this. While crying, Tae-san compliments his mother's beauty. She asks why he is crying. Tae-san's mother, a graduate of the prestigious Hongji Fine Arts University, only attended by South Korea's finest artists, once said she never had to touch grass before marriage, yet now she's become a farmer. Tae-san compliments her beauty again, and she teasingly says that only his father is blind. While hugging her, Tae-san tells her not to overwork herself, noting she doesn't look like a typical rural woman. She pats him, saying, without farmers, there'd be nothing to eat. Tae-san praises his father for being lucky to marry her, joking whether she betrayed her country in a past life to be with him. His mother laughs, suggesting maybe she was a princess who betrayed her country in a past life. It's been a long time since he's seen her laugh like this. While embracing her, Tae-san promises to give her a happy life in the future. His mother jokingly tells him to eat a lot if he loves her. Tae-san apologizes for hugging her without his father's permission. She laughs, saying his father will be jealous. Then, Tae-san and his mother sit down to eat in the cool breeze of the countryside. After inviting his mother to eat, Tae-san serves himself a bowl of rice, enjoying a sensation he wouldn't have felt if not for his reincarnation. He doesn't forget to praise his mother's cooking as the best. He suggests she should open a restaurant to compete with others, claiming it would be a hit. Hearing him mention being tipsy, his mother suspects he's been drinking secretly. Tae-san admits he's grown up, so drinking is normal. His mother tapped his head and said Tae-san is just like his father. He remembers being quite a drinker in college. But now, rejuvenated, he doesn't even know what alcohol tastes like. His mother sternly warns him against touching alcohol. However, looking around the house, he sees mice everywhere, the household items are worn out, and the electrical appliances are outdated. Tae-san laments how poor their house is. Seeing a mouse near the door, he realizes he can't continue like this. He must earn money. So, Tae-san offers to wash the dishes. His mother teases that if a person suddenly changes their behavior, they might be nearing their end. She tells him to let her do it and not to get involved. Tae-san recalls washing dishes during his military service. His mother questions when he served in the military, to which he just smiles and tries to change the subject. She asks if he and his father are conspiring to tease her, but he immediately denies it. At this moment, he realizes he's been a terrible son, never having washed dishes before. Tae-san vows to make his mother happy. She remarks that fathers and sons always say that. Because his mother isn't in good health, she doesn't work in the afternoons. While she sleeps, Tae-san takes the opportunity to clean the house, wiping the floors, clearing the musty and foul smells. He also washes clothes and blankets, cleans all the windows, and takes out the trash. He knows that his father is currently borrowing money. His father, an apple farmer, understands the importance of fertilizer and pesticides. Organic food isn't very popular in South Korea, as few can afford such fruits, which taste bland. Tae-san tries an apple and immediately spits it out, thinking these apples are of poor quality. But his father's debts are high. His father has a fruit orchard and 2 rice fields inherited from Tae-san's grandmother 3 years ago. Tae-san knows that in a few months, all these assets will be sold to pay off debts. Then, his family will be ruined, and his father's relatives will never visit again. Tae-san feels sorry for his father. He wants to find a way to keep the orchard and the rice fields. The problem now is money. Tae-san remembers stock market charts from the past. Although he only saw them a couple of times, he remembers them vividly. He is surprised by his own memory and begins to question the significance of his return to the past. The idea of him traveling back to 2006 seems crazy. In this country, he wonders what the point of owning stocks is, as the market has already bottomed out. Who would lend money to a high school student like him, and part-time jobs don't pay much? With this situation, he can't make enough money to help his parents. Returning to his room, Tae-san realizes that things are not looking good. Looking at his outdated computer, he understands that stocks could make him rich quickly, but his current situation doesn't allow it. This useless machine only allows him to type text. Looking at pirated software, he notices a web novel site. The God of Wealth has arrived, the God of Wealth has arrived. Tae-san decides to write 2 works, Magic Warrior and Thunder Sword. These were the hottest works in South Korea at that time. The first series was published in 2007 by Jang Hee-jae, and by 2020, it had 59 volumes. This number kept increasing, but Tae-san remembered every detail of the novel. He typed continuously, not bothering to change the titles, as he believed in the rule of first come, first served. The story is about the main character helping the female lead after her father's death leads to her family's downfall. It sounds like an interesting novel. All the content continuously appears in Taesan's head, clear as day. Taesan feels proud, thinking he is a genius. Thus, a masterpiece is written by him, with some details adjusted to make the novel even more authentic. He keeps typing, quickly finishing the entire work. First, he puts the work in the free category. Once the work explodes in popularity, it will bring him a lot of money. He uploads the first chapters of the novel. Indeed, he has stolen a novel from the future, reminding him of a saying, "Money has no eyes, whoever comes first owns it." His shouting even wakes his mother. Inside the house, a lazy guy is eating noodles while praising the main character of Taesan's story for having some guts. He realizes this is the best novel he has ever read. He is so enthusiastic that he keeps pointing out how the main character in the story knows how to care for the female lead. He reads 10 chapters alone, thinking if Taesan publishes a book, he will buy it immediately. He then goes online to pre-order and recommends it to everyone. Taesan's story explodes on the internet. It becomes the most uploaded serial, topping the charts with only 10 chapters released. At the publishing house, everyone is reviewing the fans' comments. With only 10 chapters, the novel is already being printed in large quantities. The chief editor is puzzled about printing so many with only 10 chapters. A subordinate thinks it's an interesting novel with a solid plot. It will be a bestseller. Some believe the author must be famous, hence the decision to change the author's pseudonym for the new work. The editor says that fantasy novels are now better than game novels. This magic warrior has great potential. The editor suggests buying the rights to this novel. Yesterday, she read it and found the main character very compelling. They have already contacted the author, offering him terms. If he is a newcomer, they can share 8% of the profits from 4,000 copies. The chief editor thinks that's too much. Yesterday's negotiation was only for 5% on 5,000 copies. The first proposal seems better, so the chief editor instructs her to contact the author immediately. At another publishing house, an employee asks the chief editor if he has read the trending novel. He thinks it's very good. The employee feels the novel is well written and has great potential. The chief editor sees it as very promising and decides to publish it. He offers 10% on 6,000 copies. The employee fears this is too much and the publishing house won't agree, and if they find out about the contract with them, there will be an uproar. The chief editor confidently says he had a premonition that the novel would sell at least 10,000 copies. Seeing his boss so confident, the employee asserts that although they don't know the actual profit, this is definitely a phenomenon. The chief editor instructs him to contact the author immediately. At 3 a.m., on the mountain behind Taesan's house, his body can now endure longer during Qigong practice since his last fainting episode. His breathing becomes lighter. His entire body is enveloped by Qigong energy, continuously emitting light. He focuses his internal energy. His body breathes rhythmically. Various stances of martial arts keep appearing in Taesan's mind. He moves swiftly. Taesan leaps up, kicking, tearing through the air. He breathes rhythmically. Standing on the mountaintop, he feels his power is at its peak. With this, he will be unbeatable. Since he couldn't practice martial arts at home, he temporarily made a tent on top of a 500m high mountain. Just as predicted, up to 5 publishing companies contacted Taesan. That completes step 1. Now, he simply ignores them. The reason Taesan's novel became popular by 2021 is because it's humorous and irresistible to readers. Many publishers want to meet him in person. But, seeing many authors go bankrupt, Taesan can't rush into anything. He lets them know about him first. Online, there have been many authors who signed with publishing agents and ended up with regrettable outcomes. Taesan must be very cautious. Moreover, he saw Nemezia, the original publisher of his novel. As the sky looked like rain, Tae-san wanted to take his mother out. He promised to treat her to a lavish meal, but she doubted he had the money. Seeing her son happy, she agreed. They were on their way to meet with Nemezia Publishing to discuss the contract. But Tae-san, still a minor, was a bit worried because minors aren't legally allowed to enter agreements without a guardian. The law involves payment and penalties, so he needed his mother as a representative. Tae-san helped his mother off the bus, telling her to be careful. His mother noticed his excessive care lately. Tae-san suggested they have coffee first. When his mother asked if he had already had coffee, he joked about the weather being too hot for an iced Americano. They headed to a coffee shop. Standing in front of it, Tae-san asked his mother if she trusted him. She assured him, saying, "Of course, my son." As they entered, the chief editor, mistaken for the author, was a bit disappointed. Tae-san noted their punctuality, a positive sign. He asked if they were from Manhwa Media. They were surprised to see the author was a student. Tae-san confidently affirmed his authorship, to his mother's astonishment. The editor and CEO couldn't believe Tae-san was the author due to his young age. But his confidence and arrogant tone were unmistakable. They were impressed by Tae-san's sharpness and demeanor. The editor and his assistant invited him to sit. Surprised by his youth, they asked his age. He replied that he was in his second year of high school, leaving them stunned. The CEO thought Tae-san was no ordinary teenager, seemingly difficult to negotiate with. His mother asked who they were, and about the pseudonym Gogiver, leaving the assistant surprised. The editor was confused. Tae-san noticed their controlled expressions and decided to tease them more. He asked if they were reluctant to sign with a high school student. His mother was clueless. The editor and CEO denied it, saying they would introduce themselves first. They introduced themselves as Choi Woo-kwon and Hwang Seo-gu. Tae-san smiled. He introduced himself as Jang Tae-san. He turned to his mother, encouraging her to introduce herself, mentioning they were the CEO and chief editor of Night Media Publishing. She was astonished to hear about the publishing company. Tae-san told his mother that he was going to sign a contract with them. The CEO handed over his business card. He reintroduced himself to Tae-san's mother, calling Tae-san writer John. Tae-san was amused by this nickname. His mother was still amazed, wondering how her son had become a writer. Tae-san asked his mother why he couldn't be a writer. His mother criticized his writing, doubting he could become a writer. She told him to focus on his studies instead of writing. The CEO and chief editor agreed with her. Tae-san told his mother that he had posted a novel online during the holidays and asked for her permission to sign a contract with the publisher. She was shocked to learn that he would sign a contract. Tae-san felt helpless as his mother had just promised to trust him till death, yet she seemed not to believe him. The CEO intervened in their conversation, saying Tae-san's novel was very captivating. It had recently gained many fans. He insisted that she should believe in her son. The chief editor praised Tae-san's novel as the best he had ever read. Hearing that the novel was about a magical warrior, his mother found it reasonable. Tae-san proudly asked her if she was proud of having such a talented son. She looked at him, and he asked the publisher for a drink. They were startled, and his mother reminded him to speak politely. They immediately asked what the mother and son would like to drink. He cheerfully ordered an iced coffee and a bingsu. The chief editor went to place the order. Tae-san asked the CEO if he had brought the contract. The CEO told him not to be impatient. Tae-san said he was just curious. The CEO laid the contract on the table and told Tae-san to take his time reading it. Tae-san picked up the contract and read it attentively. When he reached the part about the publisher retaining copyright for 5 years with the option to renew, Tae-san found it amusing. He looked young now, but he was already knowledgeable in legal matters. Tae-san immediately asked the CEO to amend this clause and send it back to him. The CEO dismissed it, saying the secondary copyright was not a big deal. Other authors signed contracts like this. Tae-san disliked this clause, insisting that the publisher could only print his work. Furthermore, if they wanted to publish abroad, they needed to discuss it with him. His mother and the CEO were both surprised. Tae-san also demanded a 200 million advance. The CEO and chief editor were stunned by this amount. His mother was surprised by his decisiveness. Tae-san also requested a guarantee fee and a 10% royalty for the first 6,000 copies. If the publisher wanted to sell rights, they had to inform him and send monthly royalties to Tae-san's account. The CEO was sweating, saying Tae-san was too hasty. The chief editor said no publisher would advance such a huge sum. High readership didn't guarantee long-term success. Tae-san noticed they had brought a laptop in their bag. They were surprised when he mentioned this. Tae-san gave them an option: if they didn't like his terms, they could refuse. Tae-san presented a USB drive. The CEO and chief editor were amazed. Tae-san explained that the USB contained drafts. They didn't expect it to have manuscripts inside. Tae-san said there were 5 novel drafts on the USB. Tae-san's mother was so surprised that she wondered if she was dreaming. Dreaming? This is just the beginning, Tae-san said. I will bring you even more surprises. The CEO and chief editor read the novel Tae-san had written on their computer. They were very surprised. Tae-san was nonchalant, saying if it was good, they should just say so without making such expressions. The work was so good that the CEO begged Tae-san to sign a contract with them. They agreed to pay him 20 million immediately to publish it. Tae-san smartly thought it was a wise decision. The chief editor brought out a new contract. The CEO immediately amended the contract according to Tae-san's wishes. His mother awaited Tae-san's decision. Tae-san asked them to correct the income tax declaration properly. When reselling, they must pay him as per the contract. The CEO assured Tae-san they were ethical professionals. Tae-san was unsure whether to trust them, but once the money was in his account, he had nothing to worry about. He was satisfied with the feeling of being a writer without losing any intelligence. Tae-san's mother, acting as his legal representative, also had to sign the contract. After signing, the CEO immediately transferred 200 million into Tae-san's account. His mother was so surprised that her mouth fell open. Tae-san remembered a time when he nearly died with less than 2 million in his account. Now, he planned to gradually increase his savings. The CEO shook Tae-san's hand, grateful for signing the contract. Tae-san happily noted that it was beneficial for both parties. Tae-san told his mother they could leave, but the CEO and chief editor invited them to dine with them. Tae-san postponed it for another time, as his mother was not comfortable dining with strangers, and he casually mentioned that money was just trash to him now. Outside, it was still raining. In front of the cafe, Tae-san's mother bowed to the CEO and chief editor, apologizing for any rudeness, not understanding what was happening. They waved it off, saying working with Tae-san was their fortune. The chief editor asked Tae-san how many volumes he planned to write, suggesting maybe around 10 based on the current content. Tae-san answered 60 volumes. Both the CEO and chief editor were shocked. Tae-san remembered up to volume 59 and thought it would be cruel to the readers to have only 20 volumes. They wondered if 60 volumes were too many. Tae-san assured them not to worry, there would be 60 volumes. The publisher said they would see how things go. They agreed to discuss with Tae-san again, saying even if there were 100 volumes, they would be happy. Looking at the sky, Tae-san felt there was much to do that day. His mother asked where they were going now. Tae-san said they would stop by the bank. His mother wondered what business he had there. Tae-san replied it was very important. His mother was bewildered by the sudden turn of events, not understanding how her son became a writer and earned 200 million. Tae-san said he would start working tomorrow afternoon. So, he needed to open a bank account first. His mother asked if they should discuss it with his father, noting that he was still a dependent child. With this 200 million, Tae-san could pay off his father's debt and interest in full, but he didn't want to rush into using this money. Tae-san asked his mother if she believed in him. She said, of course, but Tae-san told her to wait a month, and then he would talk to his father himself. This money was just the beginning, it would become a golden egg for his family. His mother replied that she would believe in him. The sky had cleared. Tae-san said he would treat his mother to instant noodles. His mother reminded him to add meat and sweet and sour sauce since he was wealthy now. The sun had just risen. Tae-san, on the mountain behind his house, continued to meditate. He recalled everything, with all financial indices appearing in his mind. That preparation was enough, now it was time to head to school. Looking at the computer and reading the numbers, Tae-san knew the game was in his hands, he would drain the capitalists. Watching the buying and selling of stocks, Tae-san found it adorable. Now, this was his playground. He laughed, saying the capitalists were doomed. The market unit price was 2,250, with small cap stocks at 50 billion. This situation would happen a few more times. Tae-san had to act immediately. As a former stockbroker, he was skilled at this. When 20,000 shares were bought at an average price of 2,500, they would be ruined. At a certain company, an employee urgently called the department head because all the money in the trading room was withdrawn. 20,000 shares were sold off. The department head asked if anyone had noticed the stock closing. The employee turned back, asking what to do. The head, sweating, said they could only wait for a notification and divide the work for now. He cursed, wondering who the lucky person was. Now everyone had to be careful not to lose everything. The department head felt like this person was a ghost, holding every secret, wondering who he was. Indeed, a lucky guy. He estimated that after this campaign, the person would earn about 100 million, at least bleeding 10 people dry. Back at home, Tae-san was thrilled with the influx of money. In 3 days, he had made 460 million. Even if he ran out of money, he still had 260 million left. Tae-san wondered if he should continue playing, he wasn't satisfied yet. Koo also felt it wasn't enough, he was just getting started. In his previous life as a broker, he hadn't used as many tricks as this. Next week, there will be an announcement about a new drug development. Then, the stock chart would stabilize. He would withdraw all his capital. In the winning stock companies, after all, the profits weren't going anywhere. Tae-san hadn't expected that his knowledge and the skyrocketing stock values he learned as a broker would be so useful. From now on, the stock market will be lively. The tricks were already in Tae-san's hands. It would be crazy not to seize them. Outside the bookstore, everyone was looking for Tae-san's new novel. People were discussing its plot and characters. People passing by, hearing the name of the novel, became curious and placed pre-orders, fearing they might miss out. At Tae-san's house, his family was gathered for breakfast. Tae-san's mother noticed that his father seemed to have something to say. His father silently continued eating his rice, insisting that there was nothing wrong and that they should continue their meal. Tae-san's younger sibling, noticing their father's pallor, worriedly suggested he should get a medical checkup. Tae-san felt it was time to say goodbye to his poor fate. He slammed his chopsticks down on the table. He praised his mother's cooking as the pinnacle of perfection, while everyone else silently reprimanded him for his lack of subtlety. Tae-san winked at his mother, telling her not to worry. She understood. Tae-san was going to cheer up his father. He asked the family if they had time, sparking curiosity among his siblings about what he planned to do. Tae-san's mother asked him worriedly if there was a problem. Tae-san decided to treat the whole family to a lavish meal. His twin siblings didn't believe him. His father seemed hesitant, and Tae-san knew what his father was worried about. So, he asked his mother to bring his father along, and she agreed. Tae-san told his father to bring his ID, and his siblings to bring their student cards, but the family didn't understand why they needed to bring these documents. Tae-san mysteriously said they would be needed. His siblings asked if he had been secretly working part-time, to which Tae-san replied that children shouldn't ask too many questions. Tae-san was only 2 years older than them. Finally, the time had come for Tae-san to reveal that he was a writer, and the family went to the city together. His siblings were extremely excited. They went to look at cell phones. It was 2006, and having a cell phone then was impressive. Tae-san's sibling admired each model, marveling at their beauty. Hearing the names of each type, Tae-san smiled. Tae-san's father said they wouldn't buy any, so they should move on. Tae-san told his siblings to pick whatever they liked, as he would take care of it. His siblings asked again to confirm, and Tae-san agreed. His father was astonished by Tae-san's extravagance. His father didn't want his young children to use such expensive items, even though Tae-san had money from his novel royalties. Tae-san wanted to buy flip phones for his parents, which were quite trendy. His mother wanted to choose one immediately, but his father seemed to want to stop her. His mother chose several models, asking if his father liked them, while Tae-san picked out a sleek black one. He asked to bring everything to the checkout. Since his siblings were underage, he instructed the employee to put the purchases under his parents' names. The total came to 20 million. The whole family was shocked by Tae-san's lavish spending, and the employee even offered a free pre-order service. Afterward, Tae-san took the family out for lunch. Meanwhile, at the stock company, things weren't going well. The company director couldn't understand what had happened to the trading system that morning. All the money from the trading floors had been withdrawn, totaling 1 billion. They wondered who could have played such a trick on them, guessing it must be some billionaire. The director doesn't know what to do except curse at the worthless person with no morals. The employees ask what should be done. He is so angry that he gathers all his stocks for the company. Suddenly, Tae-san stops walking. Everyone at home asks him what's wrong. He wants to lead everyone into a store, but it turns out to be a car dealership. The owner, seeing them, warmly welcomes them. Tae-san decides to buy a new car for his family's safety. The highlight of this car dealership is a white car, the most expensive one there, which Tae-san had noticed before. It's the newest SUV model. The whole family sweats upon seeing it. The mother just admires its beauty, while the father is contemplative. With this car, it would be easier for Tae-san's siblings to go to school. Tae-san's father wonders what got into him today, and his siblings are excited about being driven to school in that car. However, the father is reluctant due to the family's financial difficulties. Tae-san tells his father not to worry. His mother hands over some savings that Tae-san just gave her. Inside, there's 500 million. Shocked, they wonder how he got so much money. His mother tells his father that their son has grown up. Tae-san asks his father to trust him. His father always believes in his son. Tae-san understands his father's feelings. The phone purchase alone is enough to cover this month's interest payments. He doesn't want his father to worry anymore and decides to write a new chapter for the family. Tae-san asks the salesperson if there is another car in stock. If not, he will take the display model. He tells his siblings to get in, and they go shopping. Tae-san decides to become the pillar of the family. Everyone is happy. Thus, their outing concludes. Tae-san puts on his uniform, wondering how long it has been since he graduated. He waits for the bus at the station, ready to start his high school life. The bus and the scenery remain unchanged. Tae-san finds his usual seat and puts on his headphones. He always took the bus to school, listening to music. Today, Seo John Company will go public. Even though he's going to school, Taesan's investments will automatically increase. His assets are now over 1 billion. Taesan has set up automatic stock trading. Typically, stock traders don't invest in stable stocks. They bet everything on skyrocketing stocks and enjoy the fluctuations. They dive into this risky business, which expert manipulators exploit. Taesan is one of these players. For them, charts mean nothing. In the end, they drain the stock players dry. However, Taesan, armed with knowledge and future information, won't let any opportunity slip by, no matter how skilled the opponent is. The students on the bus start complaining about the end of their vacation. Taesan recognizes them immediately. The tan girl is Mixin, who always boasts about her travels. Beside her is Naesan, her friend who is always jealous of Mixin. They both see Taesan and are surprised. Taesan also looks back. When these mothers see something beautiful, their eyes light up. They all stare at Taesan because he is very handsome. Taesan offers to hold their bags if they are too heavy. Indeed, there's no folly like being foolish over boys. They immediately hand their bags to Taesan. Other girls start to notice him too. They find him familiar and everyone tries to figure out who he is. Even the older male students are curious. The older girls are all smitten by his good looks, but none can remember who he is. These high school girls are so naive. In just a few years, they will shamelessly chase after handsome boys. The bus stops at the next station. Another girl gets on the bus. Taesan notices her. She is the girl he most wanted to meet, the one he has always admired from afar. She is Lee Zhizhi, Taesan's first love, the one he secretly adores. Everyone in the class is surprised by Taesan's transformation. He looks handsome as if he has just returned from a thoughtful journey. When he arrives at school, all the memories of encountering his old love suddenly shatter. Taesan also fondly remembers his mischievous friends. D-Sun is always sniffling due to a runny nose. Jung has shaved his head, determined to study, but his grades are still poor. Hwen-chun is already going bald at a young age. Zaz-hong just eats and shows no brotherly love. Bon-suk always claims to be a poet and pretends to be rich. Someone asks if Taesan secretly took his father's growth medicine because he's so tall. Taesan jokes that they should stop watching porn to grow taller. D-Sun says he'd never give up his passion. Taesan challenges him to a fight. They start to physically resolve their argument. Taesan is so strong that D-Sun begs for mercy. He asks if Taesan has been going to the gym because he's so strong. Being a high school student, Taesan naturally trains his body. D-Sun wonders if Taesan is planning to compete in sports. Taesan says no. Outside the classroom, someone complains about the noise. A white-haired boy wearing glasses comes in and scolds them, asking if they can be quiet. This is Hong Sung-hun, and everyone is too scared to respond. Every environment has its bullies, those who only know how to oppress the weak. Sung-hun sees Taesan and is shocked. He notes that Taesan has grown tall. Taesan can't stand Sung-hun's mocking laughter, as this malicious boy even caused him depression in the past. Hong Sung-hun is a member of a third-rate gang called the Scorpions and acts like a big shot at school. When Taesan doesn't respond, Sung-hun angrily insults him, asking if he knows how to speak. Taesan approaches and mocks him for being jealous. Sung-hun can't believe Taesan is standing up to him. The whole class is shocked. Sung-hun mocks Taesan, saying that he must have missed getting beaten up during his absence. Taesan sarcastically surrenders, saying he wouldn't dare disrespect a dog. No, someone worse than a dog. The classmates are in disbelief. They ask Taesan if he's been hit in the head or something. Taesan feels it's time for revenge, to retaliate for the brutal beatings he endured in the past. Sung-hun, furious, tells him to say that again. It seems Tae-san has grown bold enough to talk back, daring him to repeat his words. Tae-san smiles naturally, finding the boy somewhat cute. For Sung-hun, physical strength is power. Suddenly, the door bursts open. The supervisor steps in and scolds the two for their behavior. The class teacher, expecting quiet study, is surprised to see them glaring at each other. Tae-san explains they are just joking around after not seeing each other for a while. Sung-hun is infuriated by Tae-san's antics in front of him. The teacher calls for order, telling the class to settle down and disperse the crowd. The classmates are relieved that they might avoid trouble, hoping Tae-san doesn't say anything more. But unexpectedly, Tae-san challenges Sung-hun to meet at lunch, even winking, hinting at a confrontation. Sung-hun is furious, feeling outsmarted by Tae-san and vows revenge. The class loudly proclaims their determination to score high in the university entrance exams, like customers in a busy market. They joke that higher scores will lead to prettier wives. Sung-hun, sitting at the back, keeps staring at Tae-san at the front. During the first break, everyone worries about Tae-san, as Sung-hun is gathering his gang outside to confront him. In the second break, they ask Tae-san if he's eaten something strange to be acting so bravely, reminding him that it's still possible to escape. By the third period, Tae-san is still unmoved, causing even more concern among his classmates. They are too scared to go to lunch, fearing the confrontation with Sung-hun. They resent Tae-san for potentially dragging them into trouble. Sung-hun's formidable reputation intimidates them, and they are surprised by Tae-san's audacity. Tae-san, unfazed, tells them to stop worrying so much. He assures them he's got their backs in tough times. Finally, Sung-hun arrives with his gang, all of them big and intimidating, as if ready to turn Tae-san and his friends into punching bags. Tae-san tells them to calm down, mocking Sung-hun's threats. He dares to confront them, surprising them with his boldness. Tae-san tells them to shut up and follow him outside, not wanting to fight in the classroom. His friends are terrified, fearing for their safety. Tae-san invites them for pizza afterward, as if unfazed by the imminent threat. Sung-hun, without further ado, calls his gang out. Tae-san, under a clear sky and white clouds, knows he has to deal with this situation once and for all. He hands his phone to Do-dong, seemingly preparing for something. The group surrounds Tae-san's crew, with Do-dong filming the scene. Sung-hun apologizes to his gang for the inconvenience caused by Tae-san and promises to treat them afterward. Tae-san asked Sung-hun a question. Sung-hun just complained, saying that this situation was a mess and couldn't be fixed. Tae-san asked why he always bullied those who liked spicy food with him. Aren't we supposed to be friends? The question sounded crazy. Sung-hun had many reasons. He hated studying with those he considered inferior, despised those with dirt-filled heads, and loathed the guy who only had kimchi for breakfast. He was disgusted by the impoverished people like them, saying they were an eyesore. Tae-san still hoped they could be friends, stating that beating and extorting money from friends was wrong. He wondered what Sung-hun's father, a prominent lawyer in the city council, would think of his son's behavior. Tae-san thought Sung-hun should stop. Now, Tae-san was going to bring up Sung-hun's father's reputation. Sung-hun told Tae-san to mind his own business and not worry about his family matters. Sung-hun's father had said to trample on the inferior, hinting at problematic family education. It turned out this guy was bullying others using his father's influence. Even the principals and the management office's sons were familiar with Sung-hun's father, and a little money could smooth things over. Tae-san begged Sung-hun to spare his friends. Sung-hun refused, insisting on maintaining their perceived social hierarchy. Sung-hun also suggested teaching them a lesson so they wouldn't dare speak up again. Tae-san pleaded on behalf of his friends, but Sung-hun mocked him, questioning who he thought he was to make such demands. Tae-san offered money, saying it was all part of his plan. Sung-hun agreed to let them off for $1 million. Tae-san handed over the hard-earned money of his parents, hoping Sung-hun would spend it wisely. He pleaded again for his friend's sake. Sung-hun, seeing the amount, teased Tae-san about suddenly being wealthy. Tae-san continued to pretend, begging for mercy for his friends. Sung-hun responded with a mocking laugh and even hit Tae-san, causing him to bleed from the mouth. Tae-san had anticipated this but still acted hurt, continuing the charade. His friends were shocked and panicked upon seeing him injured. Tae-san wiped the blood away and looked at Do-dong. Do-dong understood and stopped recording on his phone. It was time to turn the tables. Tae-san called Sung-hun's group over. He was ready to confront them. Tae-san warned Sung-hun that this wasn't over yet. Sung-hun didn't understand what Tae-san was planning. Tae-san mocked Sung-hun, saying if his ancestors knew about his behavior, they would be appalled. Sung-hun was angered, accusing Tae-san of not knowing his place. Tae-san retorted that Sung-hun's ancestors must have committed terrible deeds to have a descendant like him. Sung-hun's group, following his lead, prepared to attack. But when Tae-san struck the first one, sending him flying, the group hesitated, shocked by Tae-san's strength. Tae-san apologized, realizing he didn't know his own strength. His friends were equally surprised. Sung-hun urged his group to attack, but Tae-san was ready, knowing he was just defending himself. Sung-hun ordered his group to beat Tae-san. Tae-san stared intently at them. As the fist was about to hit his face, he dodged and punched the attacker in the head. One after another, they came at him with sticks. Tae-san stepped back, dodging the sticks aimed at him. He swiftly kicked the heads of the two leading attackers, making them dizzy. They began to fear him. Whoever approached was punched by Tae-san, breaking their teeth. Sung-hun started to hesitate. Tae-san need another one. Despite Sung-hun's bravado, urging everyone to attack, whoever approached ended up with broken teeth and jaws. Tae-san fought more fiercely. They started using steel rods against him, but he broke all their sticks. Sung-hun couldn't believe that this was the same Tae-san he knew. As Tae-san broke their sticks, he advised them not to play with dangerous things. The group was in disbelief, unable to accept that Tae-san alone was overpowering them all. When Tae-san forced them to kneel and reflect, he turned to Sung-hun. It was Sung-hun's turn now. Even facing defeat, Sung-hun still insulted Tae-san, vowing not to leave him in peace. He considered Tae-san a nobody. Tae-san approached Sung-hun, who pleaded for him not to come closer. Tae-san slapped him. Sung-hun couldn't believe how frightening Tae-san had become. Tae-san told him that this was the result of his own actions, experiencing what he had done to others. Sung-hun thought Tae-san would leave him alone, but Tae-san vowed never to forgive him. Tae-san showed his middle finger, indicating that Sung-hun's words were worthless to him. As Sung-hun, defiant even in defeat, threatened Tae-san, he attempted to punch Tae-san. Tae-san hit Sung-hun's fist directly. Sung-hun's hand bones broke, causing him to scream in agony. His fingers shattered, Sung-hun was in unbearable pain. He started to roll around, getting hit, and swore to destroy Tae-san's family. Tae-san remarked that Sung-hun hadn't had enough, likening his words to a famous line from a future war movie against evil. Sung-hun was clueless. Tae-san hit him so hard that Sung-hun started bleeding. Tae-san's friends began to fear him, not believing what he was capable of. Blood splattered everywhere. Tae-san beat Sung-hun beyond recognition. Tae-san felt it was a shame to stop now and wondered if he should continue the charade. He asked Do-dong to bring his phone. Everyone responded promptly. Tae-san dialed 113, calling the police to report a bloody fight behind the school. There were about 20 injured people, necessitating a call to 119 for emergency services. Tae-san added fuel to the fire. At the hospital, one screamed about a non-functional hand, and chaos ensued. The emergency room was filled with patients bandaged up because of Tae-san's actions. In the VIP room, Sung-han was diagnosed with a 16-week recovery period, with all his hand bones and joints shattered. Even after successful surgery, it would be difficult for him to move. Sung-han's father demanded to know where the culprit was. The nearby marketplace was confused. Sung-han's father insisted on knowing the location of the person responsible for his son's condition. He was determined to put him in jail. The marketplace owner mentioned that the police were already involved. The student who had caused this was also injured in the emergency room.